Okay, here we go. I am here with Malia Fox, who is Joshua Fox's mother, and she's going to tell you a little bit about Joshua and then what she's done since his passing and how she's helping out with the awareness. So, if you don't mind, introduce yourself, Malia, and we'll start from there.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, I'm Malia Fox. I live in a little town called Dodge, Wisconsin. It's across the Mississippi River from Minnesota. Winona, Minnesota is where my son Josh died on August 2nd of 2022. He was found by his 20-year-old daughter, um, deceased on his kitchen floor. His older son, Skylar, um, called me that evening and was asking quite frantically, Grandma, is it true? Is it true? What she's saying, is it true? And I did not know what he was talking about. I questioned him, and he said his sister Abby was saying that dad was dead. I heard nothing more after that. I really knew that if this phone call was coming in the middle of the night and the kids were saying that something was gravely wrong. Drove the 13 miles to town to be met by one officer, my granddaughter outside, um, and my son was dead. I was quite confused. Of course, there's the guttural scream that the mothers do. Um, Neighbors were all up, and I just remember the surreal, like you're watching someone's really awful movie. Because I had worked for the city for 30 years, I knew all of the officers, and I remember feeling horrible for that officer that knew me. Um, it took about a week of not not knowing what had happened, just really going through. I had COVID when this occurred. I had seen Josh a couple days before. He was helping me run through Walmart and throwing all kinds of products in. Mama, this will help. Mama, this will help. And thinking, did Josh have COVID? His father had died of a brain aneurysm when he was 43 years old. Josh was 44. Did he have a brain aneurysm? He had had a large spider bite on his leg, which was really bothering him. Did he get blood poisoning and die? All of these things were going through my mind. Josh had been in recovery for 12 years. And unbeknownst to me, during COVID, he had been one of those that began using again. He had shown me his NA chip, uh, kind of sent it to me in a message, but it didn't register with me. I guess I was thinking he was going through memorabilia.
Wow.
He had said to me 2 weeks before, and I didn't understand that. Um, Josh also was bipolar. And so a lot of times I didn't necessarily listen intently to everything he said. So when he made that comment, my thought was, what are you talking about? People are getting hospice patients fentanyl patches and they're sucking on them.
Yeah.
What is this? And when I took that message 2 weeks later into the local law enforcement, I said, "Can you tell me what this meant?" They informed me that in our town of 27,000 people, they were waiting on 17 toxicology reports. And I knew right then and there that people were dying of fentanyl and nobody was talking about it, which in my grief and trying to figure everything out, I realized that I was either going to stay in bed in a fetal position the rest of my life, or I was going to find out what this meant, and I was going to be his voice. He gave me that directive. People are not talking about it. If Josh knew anyone would do it, it would be his mother. And from that point on, I got hooked up. Someone had given me a grief group online, and I started reading those, and I went, no, I will not do this. Because there were people that were saying, it's been 45 years. And I'm thinking,
Oh
no,
my God.
I cannot. And so, and yes, I do believe that those have their place. But at that moment in time, it was very frightening to me to think that the feelings that I was having at that time, and probably still have today, will continue forever. And they will, but not at that level. Um, it's kind of hard to explain. I think, we're forever changed,
Yeah.
but it webs and flows. So there was a woman in Texas. I think it's one of the Gueros. Is it Jennifer? Do you know Jennifer, Mike? Or is it Teresa Guero?
I,
Jacob. She
Jacob. Yes. Okay.
she came along and said, I really think that you need to look into the Drug Epidemic Memorial. And so I hooked up with the Drug Epidemic Memorial, and I not not much longer became an administrator on that site. So I look at and do all of the faces with Lou and with Carol. So that was my initial starting point. Um, because Josh had also spoken often about there weren't very good services, there were no recovery centers, there really weren't, there wasn't a community of people in recovery. Um, Simultaneously, because I was only 2 months into my retirement, uh, I had been given an award in the town for my years of work. It was from a community foundation. It was called the Founders Award. And so I was given this $8,000 award to be able to give to a nonprofit of my choice. Well, there weren't any recovery centers. So decided that we would try to start a recovery center. That didn't work out the best. Um, I think because people were really new in their recovery and they didn't have the skills of starting a nonprofit, bylaws, all those kinds of
Yeah.
things. So as time went on, here's the other thing. I was finding that our missions weren't the same. I needed to be speaking about deaths by fentanyl. And that community really did not want
Yeah.
to talk about that at that point in time. So that is how Ripple, Drug Education and Awareness, began. I actually did not keep that Founders Award for that. I did give it to another recovery initiative for them. And then I just began with the Ripple Drug Education. Ripple, um, the first three letters are
Right.
capital RIP,
I saw it.
but Ripple is actually one of Joshua's favorite Grateful Dead songs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think about
And In actuality, Ripple is about mental illness that the Grateful Dead had written. And we sang Ripple at Josh's celebration of life.
Oh my
So the Ripple drug education is very much pointed towards Josh and mental illness and substance use. And it began with two other moms who, uh, one, her son had died prior to Josh, but he had died out in Oregon. Most of his life was spent in California. However, he also had come to Minnesota, and she was working in Minnesota in the school system. She had never spoken to anyone about what her son had died from. So, because of some letters to the editor that I had been writing to the opioid committee for the county because they weren't spending money, people started reading and kind of coming out and saying, hey, this happened to me.
God.
Um, about 7 months after Josh's death, a young man that he knew, a 27-year-old, died. I have known him since he was a baby, and his mother came to me. So those three moms, we were the founding, uh,
Okay.
yeah,
Approved.
members of Ripple. And so we've been about 2 years in operation. We speak in the schools. We have, well, that first year we had spoken to 2,500 kids in that first year. And, we do the DEA one pill can kill kind of campaign, and we use that and Facing Fentanyl, Andrea
Yeah.
Thomas and Adrian Souter. We worked with them, so we use those, and it's very successful. The kids are very gracious. One of the first times that we spoke, and we were nervous, and we stood ahead of them and said, "We will probably begin crying.
Yeah.
We'd want you to know that. Don't worry about us. We'll get through it." And some kid in the back of the room said, "We got you, Mama."
Oh
And
wow.
we knew right
Wow.
then and there that this was going to be okay. Um, there were kids, one of the first times that we spoke, that actually were friends of my grandson, who also speaks with us. At that time, when Josh died, his youngest was 14 years old, and he was going into um, his freshman year without his father.
Oh.
And he will be a senior now this year. The last time we spoke, Alistair said, "I started school without my dad seeing me walk these halls, and I'll be ending school without my dad seeing me." And he tells the kids, "I'm not going to lie, this really is painful, but I need you to know the my dad was trying to talk to me that night, and like my grandma says, my dad was intense.
Yeah.
I did not get back to him, and I will forever feel that I could have changed something. But grandma tells me dad was intense, and we all, didn't always answer his calls." He said, "I just want you to know to check on the people you love, because I would have never known that my dad was suffering in that way." And the kids will, I always say, I put all this together. We go out, we talk, and the students will write, "Alistair said," every single time. So there were kids in those first classes that had actually spent the night at Josh's with Alistair, ate his wonderful food. Um, Josh was known for the meals he would make. He was an artisan bread maker. The
Oh.
entire neighborhood came to his celebration of life. I had no clue that he had been feeding people in the neighborhood, that there were people who were going through um, alcohol, AA, and A. They came to me saying Josh was always the person that listened to them and helped them get through. It's just, and what blows my mind is all of the kids that I hear that same story.
Yeah.
They are in so much pain. They don't want anyone else to have that pain. And they're there because people aren't there for them. The systems aren't there.
Yeah.
So Ripple goes to into the schools. We do awareness events. We do county fairs. We table at neighborhood block parties, health kinds of fairs. Anywhere, anyone that will let
Listen.
us put our booth up, we're there. And we do harm reduction in the way of naloxone, fentanyl testing strips, xylazine testing strips. We have the outdoor 24/7 refurbished newspaper dispensers, and we wrap them with our kids because we love to see our kids. We love to hear our kids' name. We have billboard campaign. Our very first billboard went up yesterday, and that's been pretty amazing. I just stand and watch people drive by it and watch them look. I actually stood out there yesterday as they put it up, and I know the man that was putting it up thought that I was really a crazed person. He came down and he said, "Is this yours?" I said, "That's my kid, Josh." There's 16 kids on there. And he said, "I had the hardest time putting this up. I looked at every single one of those faces." And then we had an educational session. He got to hear it. Um, that is what we do. You know, you'll be standing in line. I've been in a hot tub at a hotel telling kids
Good.
not to do fentanyl, not to take pills. So it's every moment that we have, we do this, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you.
So
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm going to jump back just a little bit. When you said something that stood out to me is when the police said they knew about fentanyl and we didn't know. And I've heard 100 times somebody saying that when the police showed up when they found their child or loved one dead, that the police knew about it. But why didn't we know about this epidemic? My first two thoughts are one is society thinks that everybody that dies of fentanyl are drug addicts and they're second class citizens, they don't matter. And then second, now after been doing this for 4.5 years, every time I meet with a law enforcement agency or a U.S. attorney, they're not out there to promote the awareness. They're out there to talk about the laws and everything like that. And they've all said that what we need is what you're doing, is the
Right.
awareness part. And we're the only people that are going to make a difference. I mean, I appreciate them helping and I love
Yeah.
that they're there. But that just stood out to me because that's why we got into this.
Yeah.
It's you know,
Yeah, and Mike, I learned very quickly, you know, when they did start calling, once the toxicology was back, once they know exactly what it is, and of course we didn't. I said, "Can you tell me in this autopsy what this 39 NG means?"
oh man.
Mhm. And he said, "No, we don't know anything about that." And I said, and again, you've got to think it was 2022,
Yeah.
you know. And I said, "Well, do you know how much it takes to kill?" "No, we don't have that number." Now, today, we all know,
Yeah.
we can just spit it out, right? But that's because you and I and those moms and dads are out there. We are the ones.
Yeah.
I trust our information way more, right?
I love that you said that. I'm part of the Dallas Opioid Task Force, and we have a quarterly meeting. And I've got the head of our Dallas County Hospital, the head of emergency, all the emergency room doctors are there. And I asked about xylazine and the nitazines, and they're like, "What is that?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
Why am I educating you on that? And it's
because we're entrenched
yeah, yeah,
and we're not because our kids said
yeah,
people are dying of this, because our kids know that they ignore. I
yeah,
mean, the times that Josh would try to go to treatment, try to get some help at an emergency room, be escorted out of an emergency room.
yep.
We will not deal with you. My favorite story, they do this thing of if you miss your appointment, then we cut you. You can't come back. Oh yeah, that's what's happening in this town. And so he had been cut again. and and he was saying, I couldn't come. I overslept. He did his stuff and argue. And finally, he said, "Where do you work?" And the woman said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Where do you work?" And she said, "Josh, you called me. You know where I work." He said, "I want you to say it." And she said, "I work at," and names the hospital. And he said, "In what department?" And she said, "In the Department of Behavioral Medicine." He said, "You need to get a new job."
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they know that they're not treated as a human being. They're treated as a statistic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
Something else you brought up when you brought up Alistair, your grandson, that he spoke. Um, I am would love for more children, or even some of the younger, like Preston was 20, getting some of the siblings to get up there and speak. Mainly because I always joke, you're probably sick of seeing some old man on stage talking about his son. I would rather have a person closer to their age, and I love that about Alistair that he's doing that. He's making more of an impact than anything
yep,
else, and
yep,
I think that I
absolutely.
love that. I think that's awesome.
Absolutely.
So,
It did a little bit of a dive um into the end of the second year, which would be his going into his third year without his dad. He really started struggling. This was a straight A student and always had been. And suddenly it started dipping. And it came to that piece of I'm talking, I'm telling about it, and he's not coming back. It
yeah,
it was just that reality because he too was working the pain for purpose. But when you're not an adult,
yeah.
you know, I think it just really was a struggle. But he's on his way back up again.
I mean, it's tough. Everybody, and I've heard a lot of people say this. What's it like? It's like an ocean. It comes in waves, and it's
Yeah,
probably going to hit them the worst because it's their parent. And I just, but the other thing you said that was key when you brought up, you were talking about fentanyl in the hot tub. And I always tell people, you know, people have always asked, do you think we're going to get a big audience today? And I always say the same thing. I don't care if there's 5,000 people or one. As long as we talk to one person every day, we've done our job. And that's what we're
yep,
supposed to. And
and
so,
yep, and you said it. It's
yeah.
every day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that you said that because I've done it at a Taco Bell. I've done it at a Walgreens parking lot. And, not that I had it set up, it's just you bring it up.
Yeah,
And hopefully that
absolutely.
one person will listen.
Absolutely.
So it's, well,
Yeah, so beyond the next thing, we kind of have these five things that Ripple does. The harm reduction. We actually go around to little libraries. They're the house libraries that people have outside their house
oh,
on
okay.
a
Yeah.
post,
Yeah.
and we put naloxone in those little libraries. We are trying to make it as accessible as possible. There's no sense in putting naloxone in the police station
No.
or the Department of Corrections. Um, it needs to be 24/7 access. So getting it into neighborhoods of safe spaces that people don't feel like there's cameras on them.
Yeah.
And so we put those in there along with other resources.
I love
Then,
I love that you're saying that because I know in Dallas what they've implemented is that they see most of the overdoses happening at the Dallas bus stations, like the bus stops. And so they're putting the machines there. And one thing I loved it when you talked about the old vending machines that you're using.
yeah,
I've got a friend that they bought some old cigarette dispensing machines and the pantyhose dispensers, which I never knew about, but they've had artists decorate them and
that's
all
good
that.
that you
Yeah,
didn't know that
I know. I'm just wondering why you would need pantyhose on the run, but that's what. So
because they run.
I know. So I learn something every day, but it is education, and you're right. No, a drug addict's not going to go to the police station and
No.
think, and I passed them out on the streets before, and even with the addicts, I say, I know you're going to use, just don't use alone, and make sure that it's out there.
And to me, that's what happens with systems is, we're putting it in the police station or the Department of Corrections or in the hospital lobby because those are the systems that are holding on to the opioid dollars,
Oh yeah,
and they're sitting around and they're talking and they're going, oh, we can do this, oh, we can do this. Well, you're not asking people
right.
who have lived experience.
Yeah.
And that is inclusive of moms and dads who have years of living with persons who were using substances or had mental health issues or, whatever. So,
Well, I'm glad you're talking about the mental health stuff as well, because that's what it all comes down to. Why, unless you got hurt, broke a bone or something, you got hooked on a pain pill.
right. But it still comes to a mental health
Yeah,
issue
yeah,
because now you've become, um, you know, um, you become a user of
yeah.
a pain medication. And that is a part of
Mental.
the thought
Yeah.
process. To me, what it really comes down to is big pharma.
Oh, thank
Like,
God you said that.
and end of story. It is big pharma. Um, Josh, Josh had traumas in his life. When he was 4 years old, he was sexually abused by a big brother in the Big Brother, Big Sister program.
Oh man.
He had been asked by a neighbor boy to come with him because he didn't want to go with his big brother alone because the big brother was doing things, but no one knew that. And so when a police officer came to my door, and my son is 4 years old, and asks me if I'm the mother of Josh Fox at 4 years old, I'm going, what?
Wow.
And can I come in? And he tells me what's occurred. I said, what do I do with this information? What am I supposed to do now? This is 1981. He says to me, talk to him about it once and never talk about it again. That was the advice. That's what I did. At the age of 19, Josh has, at 14, he started getting into substances. At the age of 19, he comes home and he says, I have to ask you a question. I keep having dreams. And he starts telling me the dreams. And he said, did my stepdad have something? Was he doing something? I'm like, I am not throwing him under that bus.
Oh my God.
No, sit down. I need to tell you. So here, this kid for 15 years has been having feelings that I have no idea about. And so I tell him what had occurred. Well, he was not happy that his mother kept something like that from him
Oh
for
boy.
15 years, you know?
Yeah.
And he got over it, but he did not get over it. Um, then at the age of 14, he was scheduled to meet his father for the first time. His dad and I had split up when he was like 6 months old. And due to him living in Georgia, I'm up north, I've gotten remarried. It, it wasn't in the cards.
Right.
Well, Josh started saying, I want to meet my dad. I want to meet my dad. He was scheduled to meet his dad. And 2 weeks before he was to go down, I got a call from his aunt and his father. Uh, had uh, He was working in South Carolina during the hurricanes. He had a brain aneurysm and he died.
Oh, jeez.
So Josh met his father for the first time in his casket.
Oh my God.
And when he came back, he was starting his freshman year of high school. And this is what happened to Alistair now, right? His dad's dead, freshman year. Um, and the school said his behaviors are off and he cannot, this is a private school, he cannot come back to school unless you have him diagnosed and put on something. And of
Medication.
course, he was put on Ritalin. What became his drug of choice? Methamphetamine,
Ah,
right?
it's
And and I feel very strongly. Now there's a lot of people that get angry with me when because they say their child with Adderall and those kinds of things. But first of all, my son was put on it without my knowledge. That physician no longer is allowed to practice. And it became his drug of choice. He was not ingesting it, he was breaking it open and snorting it.
smart. Oh,
So it it was already a substance disorder occurring. And that's mental health issues. That's PTSD, um, all kinds of things. And we are not recognizing these behaviors. We're putting them into something for 30 days or 60. And it took how long
yeah.
to become um,
Put
a
them on.
substance user? Yeah.
I hate, I mean, well, I've always said the pharmaceutical industry, and I say this when I'm talking at schools, I said, you can't turn on the TV without seeing a commercial for a drug that will fix anything. And notice at the bottom,
Right.
it's going to give you 15 side effects if they're going to have a new drug that'll come out for that. And our children grew up in a society that a one pill will fix everything.
Yep.
And I said that, and I've been in the cancer industry for 30 years, and I was working for AstraZeneca selling chemotherapy drugs. They asked me to speak to their employees, and I made that comment. 2 weeks before the waterfalls, somehow I lost my job. So, but I always tell people the United States and New Zealand are the only countries that allow pharmaceutical advertisements. And who has the largest drug usage? Those two countries.
Uh, yep.
And
Yeah.
and we just can't tell kids. I get it. There are some drugs that you can be diagnosed that you need to be put on. I agree with that. Just like an antibiotic, I agree with that. But don't pass them out as candy, thinking let's just hook them up for 30 days and then we'll try another one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I can't stand it. And I'll even say for me, after Preston died, they said you need to get on antidepressants. And I said, why? I'm not clinically diagnosed. I'm depressed because my son died. I'm not
Mhm.
clinically diagnosed. So I mean, but that's society. That's their answer
Yes,
for
that
everything.
is our culture.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I'm glad you brought that up. And I tell kids that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And we try to work with the health teachers and we try to get the kids. It is interesting that the kids will ask us, how do you not start using drugs? So they are looking to understand how to never get it because they've got anxiety, they've become depressed, they're bullied and they're scared that they will begin using. So those mental health sorts of things, mindfulness
Right.
and yoga and fishing and music and working out, all those kinds of things. We need to be pushing those drugs, right? Um,
I
as opposed
I
to
I love that. I mean,
the synthetics.
I talked to my church maybe a month ago to 300 students that were about to go off to college,
Nice.
and they said, "What? if you're feeling that way, what should we do? And I said, actually, if you make an appointment with this guy named God, he takes people on Sundays. And once you meet with him, then they have pharmacists that they call pastors that will inject you with the word of God. I said, I know some people won't listen to that, but I said, that's the best prescription I can say. But I love that you're talking about the exercise and just, and,
Yep.
and I always bring up family values. I didn't raise my son with what family values should have been. And and what I mean by that sometimes is I know that sometimes you've got two parents both focusing on their careers. They come home, throw dinner on the table, and that's what they're focused on. And I think that's missing. I'm never gonna give advice as a parent, but I just look at certain things like that
Yeah.
we can do our best.
Well, and um, as well as I do, and it has occurred to you twice, that we have a lot of time to think about
Yep,
what could have been, what should have been. The balance is not beating ourselves up for it,
right.
but being able to go forward and help others
Yeah.
um, when they they want that information. I am a grandmother. This is another reason I did not curl up in that fetal position. I'm a grandmother to 19 grandchildren.
Oh my God.
So there's a lot, and most of them at this time are teenagers. Um, there's a lot of work that, needs to be given to them. And yeah, you have to set the bar for them,
Yeah.
something to live for.
And
So,
I know we also have to be very blunt with students when we speak to them, when you brought that up. And I do when I get in front of an assembly or something like that, I will always see somebody on their phone. And I'll call that person. I said, please put your phone down and listen to me because if you don't, I'm probably going to get a call from your parents. And it's not because you're in trouble, it's because you're dead. And they'd be like, wow. I
yeah,
mean, I hate to do that, but it's it's the biggest misconception fentanyl is. A lot of students will come up to me afterwards and say, um, I get it now, it's a poison. I just thought if I went to a party, don't give me the one with fentanyl in it. So it's
yeah,
the education thing.
exactly.
Society, we're the only society that gets the voice out there and the messaging across. And
Yeah.
so, well, I appreciate you sharing this. And if you don't mind, send me something about, the organization and any upcoming events, and I'll get that posted out there. And God bless you for 19 children, grandchildren. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there's probably more coming.
You probably got you have to do GoFundMe in November for Christmas, I guess. So, well,
But yeah, Mike, thanks for everything
I
that
know.
you're doing because you
Thank you.
really are um trying to keep us together without the drama and
There's
um
still drama out there, and
I
sometimes
know
I stir it up, but
it comes at
yeah,
me, but that's the devil.
yeah,
We're doing good work,
yeah.
and the devil does not like that, right?
Yep. If they're coming after us, that means we're doing something good.
Yeah.
So,
And it isn't always uh, the best answer for us because it hurts,
yeah,
but we just have to look ourselves in the mirror and know that um, we're legit, we're genuine.
yeah.
And so I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, and thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I will talk soon. Thank you,
Okay, thanks,
Malia.
Mike.
Okay,
Bye.
bye. Waterfall number 20. This is the Upper Falls on the Provo River. Today's verse is Romans 12:15. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. I like this verse because it makes me, when I get sad looking at all these families that have lost somebody, that I just want to let them know that I'm there for them anytime. And here are the readings for this waterfall. Ava Michelle Howland, Forever 24, Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania. Dalton Gallops, Forever 20, Columbus, Georgia. Brandon Lee Staines, Forever 35, Ephrata, Pennsylvania. Gregory Bollinger, Forever 27, Reading, Pennsylvania. Travis Spuse, Forever 24, McFarland, Wisconsin. Joshua Fox, Forever 44, Minnesota. John Castillo, Forever 19, Houston, Texas. Last one for this waterfall is Seth Ekman, Forever 21, Texas Gulf Coast. Thank you everyone that submitted. God bless you. Have a beautiful day. I got my walking partners here. I'll tell you what, I wish I could fly right now.